Hello there. Hello. My name is Ty and I'm a hypnotist. Alright, so I want to talk to you about this idea of the Great Awakening. And so what is the Great Awakening? Like, what are you experiencing? Is this real? Is it the woo? Is it the woo crowd getting together and dreaming up some crazy shit? Personally, from my own personal experience, I would say it's real. And I think that there are part of the difficulty in pinpointing, okay, so what is this exactly that's going on here? One of the main problems with it is that I think that the world, the state of being that is becoming, that is presenting itself, is that it's so far removed from it's so far removed from the language that we've used to describe the old ways, that we don't have a way of actually clearly describing what's happening, because it's a new kind of experience, and it's actually a completely new way of approaching and interacting with reality. So, and how do you describe that? Like, how do you say, what is this thing that's occurring, right? So there's different, so there was, there's ideas like 3D to 5D, old Earth and new Earth. And there's two different kind of ways, I think, of looking at it. One of them is where there's like a gradual shift occurring. And I think that is kind of what's happening. And then there's another way of looking at it where there are jumps that occur. There's like a jump from one state of being into the new way. And so, the problem is, how do you describe it to somebody in a way where when they listen to the words that you're saying, they can understand what you're saying and apply it so that it's like, oh yeah, that's what's happening with me. Okay, that's what's going on. So you have like Dolores Cannon. She's the qhht hypnotherapist lady with curly hair. And so she would put people into trance and have them do past life regressions. And I've done these kind of sessions with people, and she would basically take and get them into a deep trance state, and then you have the person's, you have them go to past lives and stuff like that. And then you have them have their personality sort of like step off to the side, and then bring their subconscious out, and you just speak directly to their subconscious. And when this happens, you can get access to a lot of very interesting and strange and woo-woo information. But what can also happen is other aspects of the person's personality, and even other entities can come in and start describing things. And so what happened with her was entities started telling her, they're like, yeah, there's a shift happening on Earth, and it's going to shift from old Earth to new Earth. And so this idea of, I don't know if that's the only place that the idea of new Earth came from, but it kind of, I think the idea that people got wrapped up in with that was that it was going to be like this sudden like boom, like it'll build up to it and then it's like all of a sudden boom, and then the people that didn't make it, sorry, got left on old Earth to disintegrate or whatever, and then the people on new Earth live in this like new magical kind of happy land of like amazingness. So that's one interpretation, and that kind of branched off in all these different versions of that. And then there's like 3D to 5D, and there's probably a few other ones. So one way that I discovered, or one way that I found helps me to understand it in a way that I can interact with the experience, interact with the shift experientially, is by partly taking an idea from hypnosis that works for me in hypnotizing people and understanding what's occurring there. And so when you hypnotize somebody, in the textbook explanation is basically that you're talking to them and information is going from, it's going from my brain to my mouth, through the air, into your ear, into your brain, and then your brain is working with the words that are being spoken. But if you listen to a lot of hypnotists that have been doing it for a while, they understand that there's an energetic and resonance aspect to it, so that there's actually a thing occurring where it's like if you hit a tuning fork, right? You hit a tuning fork and then you hold another one near it. The other one starts to resonate at the same frequency. And this is what I would just call entrainment, right? So if you're watching TV, it comes at a certain frequency. There's the hertz, and it entrains you to it. And you watch, you see a person sitting on the couch and they're looking at the TV like, it's because they're hypnotized and they're like, they're just completely entrained. So there's an aspect to hypnosis, and really all communication between people, where the consciousness of the two people, the body's consciousness, their whole system, is you're entering into a state of resonance with the other person. And this can happen in crowds and stuff too. So with hypnosis, what happens is I'm speaking to you and you're listening to me and paying attention to what I'm saying. And then on a deeper level or a more direct level, what's occurring is your consciousness is actually beginning to resonate at the same frequency that mine is resonating at. So the words, information being shared through words transmitted from me to you, that's happening. And then also the resonance is occurring. And when you and I resonate on the same frequency, you become entrained to my frequency. And then this happens in all conversations. Once you have rapport and you're resonating with a person, then the ideas and other frequencies that the person introduces into the conversation, because you're already resonating at the same frequency, like you're vibing, you're vibrating together. Because that's occurring, when a new idea or emotion gets brought into the shared, like call it like a resonance field or something like that. When I bring in a new idea into our shared state of resonance together, you're a lot more, you're able to understand it better because we're on the same frequency. And then you're also able to, like, if it's a new idea, or if it's an idea that you've had a hard time being able to access, or an emotion that you've had a hard time being able to access on your own, and I know how to access it pretty well, and you and I get into a resonant state, like a hypnotic, if you're in a hypnotic state, and I bring in this new idea, this new state of vibration, it's a lot easier for you to just sort of like be like, oh yeah, let's do that, and just go and be able to experience it a lot faster. Oftentimes you'll be able to experience it much faster than you would be able to on your own. All right. So the way that this, the way that I plug this idea into the idea of the Great Awakening and the shift into a completely new state of consciousness is like this. Imagine, so we'll use the terms 3D and 5D, and I could be using them wrong, or like old Earth and new Earth, as if it's like two different places. But think of it more like two different like foundational frequency states that consciousness can function at. And so if a person, so basically what's happening right now is, this is how I interpret it, is that there was normally, like before, I think that there was a much stronger, more difficult boundary to pass across between, the 3D consciousness state and the 5D. It was always there, and people would transition, and then, probably through practice and, maybe just because it was going to happen. And then they would come back, they would take what they learned and understood and then go around to everybody and be like, hey, look, this is how reality actually works. They would try to teach people. So what I think is happening now is that the boundary between, the 3D consciousness state and the 5D consciousness state is so thin, like it's been made thin intentionally so that the shift can occur. And you can think of it like this. Maybe there's an aspect of you that already exists in higher states of consciousness. Okay. So with help, most likely your higher state of consciousness that exists fully in something like 5D, right? It's there. And just like you're able to talk to me, or you're able to listen to me and pay attention to me and connect with my consciousness, in that same way, you're, the greater you, like your greater, more realized full consciousness, perhaps, is already in New Earth. That idea, it's already in that fully transformed state. And you can't, because the boundary between the two states is so thin, you can actually intentionally focus on that version of you and allow it to entrain you into the new state. And what I think is actually occurring is that, especially recently, that I know this sounds like like if somebody wandered in on this conversation, they'd be like, "What is this guy talking about?" Basically, I think what's occurred is that most people don't realize it, but that the 5D template, like the 5D frequency consciousness field, has actually already become the dominant one. And so because of that, it's a lot easier for, the 3D you, to just sort of like relax and kind of let it happen. There's going to be stuff that comes up where you have to, look at your fears, deal with them, and everybody's got to look at, the nightmarish aspects of humanity that are still expressing themselves, But the new field is so dominant that if you're able to just stop and take the time and relax and ask it, focus on it, pay attention to it, because it's right there. That's what I think. That's what I'm experiencing. And then another aspect of the shift that I think can be explained with resonance and entrainment is like this. So when a person has more fully real, I'm just going to use simple language. Like when a person has more fully transitioned into a 5D consciousness state, and they're functioning in that state, from that state, we're all still, it's the same earth, and we're all still walking, you can still see people. We're all still walking around on the same streets and living in the same houses. And what I think happens is that when a person has shifted more completely, more fully, that their presence, not even necessarily them talking about it or saying anything about it, or even necessarily their behavior. Their behavior is going to be different, most likely. But they're vibrating, when you're in that space, you're vibrating on a very different frequency. And when you stay in that frequency and you're around people who haven't, accessed it yet or even know about it consciously, I think what happens is that because your consciousness is resonating at that frequency, that it offers, even unconsciously, or not fully consciously, for the personality of the person, that you're interacting with or thinking about or in the same room with. Your consciousness, because it's now resonating at this higher frequency all on its own, it's almost like you're representative for it, and you become a gateway to it just by resonating in that field or resonating in this field. And so when people focus on you, nobody shifts overnight. But when you provide a constant frequency, like a tuning fork, it opens up the opportunity for others who are focusing on you, or people that you're focusing on or around. It offers their consciousness more of an opportunity to begin to resonate at that frequency. Like it opens up a gateway. and you act as kind of like a gateway. It's not, you don't even have to be doing it consciously. It's not like I'm going to go out and, shift the world today. And you don't even have, you don't have to talk about it. It's just it's a state of, it's just your being. Your being is resonating at a different frequency, and that gives the space, like that makes space for others to just begin to resonate at it. If they choose to, like, they don't have to. And so I think that part of the way the Great Awakening, I think part of the way that it unfolds is you have a bunch of people who get there first, and they're like, oh, okay, they get it, right? And then they interact with other people in the world, and it has, like, it's sort of like a tree catching on fire in the woods, and it's burning, and then the fire starts to spread, or like a contagion, kind of like that. And so you can see how that would work, where one person touches another person, or one person touches 100 people. Those 100 people touch 100, and then over however long of a period of time it's going to take, then we get there. But I think that kind of explains, and it's not a battle, it's not a war or something like that. It's just, it's a ripple effect. It's like a sharing. It's like a, the fire starts, and it spreads, and it spreads, and it spreads. And part of the, I think part of the reason that it's so easy for some people to just access it now, like all of a sudden, like, I don't know if you've noticed, it's, this year something happened. So that's kind of, as a hypnotist, those are my thoughts on it. And yeah. And of course, I'm curious about what your thoughts are. So you're welcome to comment and describe what you're thinking, because a lot of, this, like, when I'm talking about, like, my interpretation, like, I try to take in, I'm not like one of those people that's just like, oh, this is my experience and I don't pay attention to anybody else and what they're thinking. Like, I pay attention to a lot of different sources. And what I found is that it seems like a lot of different people are using a lot of different language to describe the same thing. And, I'm a person that's always just sort of like grinding things over and over and over in my head and thinking like different angles and stuff, and trying to, it's good to like connect ideas that are evolving with your experience that is also evolving. So that's what I try to do. So I think that's it. You can come back out of trance now. Yeah, that's fun. That is fun. So if you did accidentally become hypnotized while watching this, then don't worry. It'll wear off. All right. Hopefully I'll talk to you soon. It is my intention to talk to you again very soon. Thank you.